We are live with the Short Term Rental Pros podcast. Today, I'm super stoked to be here with not only my first mentee ever, but actually my childhood best friend as well. Who, I mean, we've been through a lot together in short-term rentals, but also in life. And really, our stories, we've kind of came up together. So I'm really happy today to kind of hear from Andy Gillespie. Andy is a realtor, also a short-term rental operator with a portfolio of properties that he manages or co-hosts, as well as ones that he's bought himself. Andy's done a lot of like home renovation projects. I call him Handy Andy because he's really good at, being a value add investor as well as leveraging the cash flow from short-term rentals. But we're going to get into his story today, talk about how he got clients, talk about how he identifies lucrative properties, and really kind of what short-term rentals has, the life that short-term rentals has created for him. So Andy, thank you so much for joining today.
Hey man, it's a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, like you said, unfortunately, I've known you for a long time, since about second grade.
Hey man. Yeah, well, Andy will give you all the tea on me back to elementary school. But yeah, really, I guess tell everybody your background. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of similarities to my background, so this will be fun. But Ayo, where are you from? And how did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, so for those who don't know Jeremy and I's story or our connection, we both moved to North Carolina around the same time in second or third grade. And I think he was coming from New Jersey and I was coming from Long Island, and ended up at the same school. And we basically were in school together through and through, all the way through college, and played sports together, and ended up playing on the JV basketball team at UNC together. And basically, it seemed like our paths might split a little bit after college when I was attempting to apply to medical school, and Jeremy was moving to New York and doing other things. But our paths came back together in COVID times. It seemed like everybody from our childhood was coming back into town, and I was seeing a lot more of Jeremy than I had since college ended. And that's kind of when my STR journey started. Jeremy had the audacity to join me and my family at our beach house in Wrightsville and bring a camera and basically say, "I'm going to take pictures of your of your house, and we're going to list it on Airbnb, and we're going to make a ton of money." And if anybody knows, Jeremy is super rambunctious and can just kind of be a force of nature. So we kind of let it happen, and that was the initial introduction to short-term rentals for me. And from there, we kind of worked together, and it's blossomed into something really good for both of us. So
Yeah, and Andy actually helped with boat rentals too early on. He I was telling him, "Yo, these Airbnbs and these houses are crazy. So
mm,
you got to get into it." At the time, Ao was and guys, Ao is his nickname, childhood nickname. So if I keep saying Ao, that's what I call him. But Andy said it's weird saying Andy. Sorry, Andy was at the time like a medical scribe, getting paid. I mean, what were you getting paid? Like $15 an hour?
yeah, so this is a funny story. I was working in the emergency department at UNC. It was kind of one of those jobs where it was a means to an end. It was something that I was trying to get some experience on my resume to look good to apply to med school. And I'd been working in there for about a year before COVID started. And when you reach, I think it's the 1,000 hours worked mark, you're supposed to get a promotion, and that promotion was $1 an hour. So it was going to go from 10 to $11 an hour. And by no means was I thinking this was going to be a forever job. Like I said, it was a means to an end, and money didn't really matter. But it was just kind of a case in point of when COVID came, they reduced all the bonuses for non-essential staff members, but we were still working in the hospital when COVID was going down. So we were frontline, basically working every single day in the emergency department, and they didn't allow or didn't approve our $1 an hour bonus for the scribes. And so at that point, I was like, "This is complete BS. I cannot, rely on somebody else if anything goes down to provide for me and family one day." And it just so happened that's when me and Jeremy kind of reconnected, and we're doing a bunch of work together. And it did start with the boat rentals, which was a very fun and pretty lucrative summer for the both of us, I think. Basically, he had started the boat rental business at Heiko Lake first, and I'm not sure how many boats you had at the time when we decided to start at Jordan Lake, but I remember you were doing all the research on the Google Analytics, saying if it works at Heiko, why wouldn't it work at Jordan Lake? And the analytics were honestly even better there. There's only one other boat rental company, and they weren't doing weekend rentals. So you basically were like, let's start at Jordan Lake, and I was going to be the full operator of this of this operation at Jordan Lake. So I was hands on, putting boats in the water, meeting with all the renters, and doing some minimal bookkeeping, but did that for the whole summer while we were also kind of getting into some co-hosting and that type of stuff, which I think you've shared quite a bit on the show, but kind of your start as well.
Yeah, so when Andy and I, we were pretty much playing tennis every day. So COVID hit March of 2020. I went back home to North Carolina, and we just started playing tennis. And obviously we're really close friends for a long time, but I was living in New York, and he was working medical job in Chapel Hill. So like from wasn't a lot to talk about from a business standpoint. But once we just started playing, and I was kind of like, wow, this is crazy, because I had the experience initially with the boats, as well as the first properties I managed. I'm like, dude, these things are making a lot of money. And like, wait a minute, I'm pretty nosy. Like I ask questions, and I can be kind of a brute, pretty forceful. But when Andy's telling me like all the stories about how next week I'm supposed to get a $1 a week raise promotion, and then that week goes by, and he's like, oh, they took it back. Like,
Yeah,
never mind, they're making us work more because of COVID. And we need like to do more shifts, because they need more. A lot of people are quitting, and there's a lot more people physically at the hospital. However, now we're getting actually paid less. And I was like, dude, you gotta come on, man. Like, we gotta, all right, check. There's another
it was eye
alternative
opening
here.
for me too, and I think it's really good to have those type of conversations with somebody like you who's you're so open about numbers and talking about money and things of that nature that if I had only surrounded myself with people who were aspiring med school students, it wouldn't have even crossed their mind that that was weird. But when you're like, wow, dude, come on, man, they're taking away your $1 an hour raise. How freaking disrespectful is that? Like, so I think that was eye opening for me to a certain extent too, and I think it was also for me. I had always had aspirations to be a orthopedic surgeon, to work in sports field. I was always very connected in sports, and when I think about it,
Andy's very athletic. Andy can dunk.
thank you, Jeremy.
Still,
Thank you.
he's an athlete. Just in case you guys, he was always more athletic than me. And he was a all region high school football player. He was really good basketball player as well. So it
Yeah,
made sense
juice
that
it
he
up.
wanted to work in sports medicine.
But yeah, so I guess when I think back on it, a lot of my aspirations to do that was A, because it's sports related, but B, those are the highest paying jobs in the medical fields. Is going to be your super niche, or your surgeon that needs to go to 4 extra years of residency. And so when I think about it, it wasn't like it was a dream of mine, but it wasn't something that I was dead set and like I wouldn't be happy if I was doing anything else, for example. So when Jeremy came around, it wasn't hard for me to be convinced to pivot into something else. And I think it's opened up so many more doors for me too. So
So got it. So you initially, so that first property for you was like taking an asset, friends and family property, which is actually funny, that specific property, because I mean your family bought that house like in foreclosure, in
hmm
distress, in 2000 like 13 or 14. And I remember us literally going up there and like sleeping on the floor, like the fans all had like birds, like it was completely in distress. There was
yeah,
holes in the
yeah,
walls. Like it was a POS. You
yeah,
could look out and see the ocean.
yeah,
So it definitely, had potential, but we literally slept on the floor. There wasn't any HVAC at the time, so we had to like open the windows, and bugs were flying through. And so really, like, I feel like we got experience. And I'll give shout out to Phil there, being, hey, you guys want to enjoy this, we've got work to do.
Yeah, exactly.
We gotta get our hands dirty. And so, like, really, you kind of helped renovate that property, and your family just used it for personal enjoyment, but you also kind of like let friends use it.
Hmm.
And you charge your, I mean, Andy was telling me like how much they charge their friends, and I was like, this is too low.
Yeah.
Like obviously, I love coming. Like, don't get me wrong, I love that I can come and hang out, but like, you could definitely, you should, if you're already renting it to friends, like, you guys don't use it all the time,
Yeah.
rent it out, the other weeks you don't use it, and get a premium for it. So yeah, I literally took my camera and invited myself over to their beach house. And I don't remember if I made the Airbnb listing or you made it, but whatever. We got that one up. So that was your first one. And then at about that time, I was showing Andy like, yo, check out how much these boats are making. So hey, check out how much the houses are making. But like the boats, and we're both just right out of school. Like we had very little, money to invest. And the math on the boats was at that time like really, I mean, just feel free. I mean, COVID was crazy for boat rentals. Like, I mean, right now, like, there's still obviously opportunity, but COVID, like, if you think, oh, Airbnb was crazy and good during COVID, like, boats were just on another level. Like, how much could we rent out the boats at that lake each day in the summer?
Yeah, man. I mean, it varied, but you'd have weekdays at 350 a day, and then you would have your weekends at five to $600, and then holidays. I mean, shoot, I think there was times where we peaked at like $1,000 or $1,100 for a boat rental for a day, and
Because we would do like two half days. We do
yeah,
like two half days at 500 or 550.
yeah,
So it'd be like $1,000 a day.
yeah, per boat, and I mean, we only had, I guess we had two operating pretty much the whole summer, and then a third that I think we might have gotten out a couple times. But I mean, being that it was just me running it, I mean, two was a good amount for a first summer. I mean, I basically learned how to trailer that boat the first day I was taking it out to a renter. So, a little bit of learning curve, but I got really good at it by the end. But yeah, no, they were crushing it, and I saw how well they were doing at Heiko, and I thought it'd be cool to get involved. And I was in the area anyway. I was still scribing at the time, just every once in a while. So that was it.
Got it. But I like to give numbers on the podcast. Just I'm a numbers guy, and I think people like it. But I think
Yeah,
I could probably look it up, and probably should have had it prepared. But I think that like those two boats really, I think they probably both made like 35 grand, 30 grand a piece
yeah,
that summer. And that the summer was like 3 months. We didn't run those from like April to November. It was really just the peak season there. So pretty solid again for a one-man shop to do. I don't know, let's say like 75,000 dollars in, I don't know, 100 days.
yep,
Like, so $700 a day on average, like pretty solid. And then you took your cut, and what you did, and also obviously what I've been doing, is then you invested that into growing your portfolio. So tell me about that first investment you made.
yeah. So my first investment was buying a duplex in downtown Wilmington. Obviously, we had those. I had connections with the Wrightsville area. My family had been coming down here for years. I wanted to be nearby, but I was also a huge fan of the downtown Wilmington area. And running some numbers, I found that they cash flow super well. At that point in time, anything was cash flowing though. The interest rates were so low. You could literally, I mean, you could analyze any property and it would most likely cash flow at least a little bit. But for me, I was looking for somewhere that I could move, because in the time I was living at my parents' house, I could move into and also rent the other side. So it was a bit of a house hack, but it was set up as a duplex. So it worked out just perfectly. And I put a good amount of my own money and time and effort into renovating this unit. It was $210,000 aside, and so 20K total for this duplex, and could utilize a first time home buyer loan. And I think we put in $20,000 in renovations on each side. That honestly might even be high. I literally did everything myself with the exception of the countertops, and we had some people come in and put in LVP flooring in the kitchen. Everything else I did myself. So I was grinding in here, sleeping on the floors, and it was pretty much like still COVID at that time. So I didn't mind, I didn't have FOMO from seeing people in bars or anything like that. I was just chilling here, working on the house. I sanded and refinished all the floors. And then I got the next door unit furnished before I officially furnished, the side that I was technically going to live on, and got it renting on Airbnb, and it's done about $4,000 to $5,000 a month consistently for 3 years. So
You've also, and I'm the numbers guy here, and I mean Andy showed me this deal at the time, and got my feedback on it. But your mortgage on both sides is like $800 a piece or something
yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
exactly. I think at this point it's $900 for the Airbnb side, and like basically just above $1,000 on my side, and that might have been we added some wind and hail insurance or some sort of other insurance. But just the principal interest is ridiculously low. It's like $500-$600 a month. So yeah, it's like ridiculous. This could cash flow in any sort of exit strategy that you wanted to do. I could rent this out. I could midterm. I could short term. Anything with cash flow. But it was a great deal at the time. And I think that this is something. It just goes to show that I didn't have all the expertise at the time, but just getting into the game now, in hindsight, I'm thinking, wow. I mean, this was an absolute home run deal. But all the nerves and getting into it in the beginning it's all worth it. And I think just taking action is so important.
Exactly. And you also rent out. So it's two, just to give the context, and I know a lot about Andy here. So, I didn't prep and get him to give this to me. So if I'm wrong, Andy, correct me. But there's two sides.
Hmm.
One side, they're both 2 beds, 1.5 bathrooms.
Hmm.
The side you live on, you also rent out that other room, and you rent that out at about like 800-900 a month.
Yeah. So initially, when I first finished, I was still living at home. So I actually rented out both bedrooms in here. I didn't even live here for the first year and a little bit that I had this
Slept
house.
on the floor, lived with his
Yeah.
parents. Like
Yeah.
we did, we both did what it took early on
Yeah.
to
For sure.
just like keep every cent we could possibly keep in order
Hmm.
to grow.
It
So,
didn't make sense for me
all
to
right, you went.
to move here at that time and pay the mortgage myself, even if it was just on one side. So I rented out both rooms. I think at 700 a piece, so 1,400 a month on just my side as a long term rental. Basically, just renting to friends who lived in the area who were also in a similar stage of life post college, and yeah, so that worked out great. So this side was cash flowing about $400-$500 a month, and the other side was cash flowing $2,500 to $3,500 a month, and that's kind of how it all started. And since then, I've
Got it.
moved in here, but yeah.
Okay, so that duplex strategy. So you initially, started boats, co-hosting, duplex strategy. What was your next move? How did you scale from there?
Yeah, so I think co-hosting was a big, was kind of a priority at that point. After I deployed my little bit of capital that I had into, my
Boat money.
my own property, I was pretty much broke again. So co-hosting was the obvious next strategy to generate some more cash flow. And I started marketing to people in Wilmington as well as back in the Triangle. And I remember, you know, I had been somewhat involved in talking to some of your first co-hosting clients on Heiko, and just being, somebody, a facilitator in the area. And then I used that experience from working with you and your clients to then market to people in Wilmington. And that's how I got my first co-host deal down here. It was basically a mutual friend, and they had an extra or a house that they were looking to rent out. They just moved, and I pitched them on Airbnb. And in this area, it's kind of a no brainer. It's basically double the potential income for them, and it's still hands off. And especially if people are moving from a house that they've been living in and they want to get new furniture, it's also a lot easier to just utilize some of the things that they already have in the house, and pitch them on pretty much all the benefits that co-hosting has to offer.
Yeah, I think it was one thing that was interesting that we did early on, because we first, I got my first co-host, then you got your first co-host, so like we didn't have like an expansive, the portfolios we have today, but we kind of used each other's listings to
Hmm.
make ourselves appear more credible.
Yeah.
So when we would go to someone, we wouldn't be like, oh, I only have one property, one
Hmm.
listing. We would add each other. We would add each other to each other. So we'd say, oh no, we have our beach division and we have our lake
Yeah. Yeah.
division and
Exactly. Yeah.
we have our
I think
triangle division.
yeah, there was a point in time there where we were kind of almost sharing a PMS, or I had your properties also on my PMS, and then your side of it just kept on growing and growing and growing, and I was like, okay, I might need to split this up, or
Log
else
off of it.
yeah, might need to get his off of mine quick.
Yeah,
uh,
you're probably getting a lot of notifications.
yeah,
I
definitely.
went I went I went balls to the wall.
Yeah, you did. Yeah, you did.
Andy's had a more
Yeah.
tapered approach
Yeah.
versus me. I
Yeah, and I think that's another important note for anybody listening is I feel like everyone can kind of grow at their own pace and focus on the areas that they want to focus on more. And if you are expanding the co-hosting very rapidly, and on the other hand, I'm kind of selecting and only marketing via like word of mouth, so I wasn't expanding as fast as you on the co-hosting side. And so I think that's just important for people to know. It's like you don't necessarily need to go completely gangbusters. I mean, you can do it at your own pace, but still have a pretty good little portfolio of listings.
got it. So you're able. So well, right now we're at the beach condo or the beach house, the duplex, the one in downtown
Hmm.
Wilmington. Then you picked up one in the Triangle region of North
Hmm.
Carolina, and then you kind of got a Mac Daddy property in the beach that you took over from another property man. Just something that I've talked about on previous episodes. I talked about it with Mike Riley of STR Secrets. I just talked about it with like Jetstream, but you took a property that was like a Vacasa property that was like very poorly managed,
That's
and
right.
you took it over. So can you kind of walk us through how that happened?
Yeah. So this homeowner had their property managed by a local beach. There's all sorts of beach realty, beach property management companies that are local or semi-local and have local operators in the area. And for years, I think that they were pleased with their service. And then Vacasa came down and bought the contracts from not all of them, but a pretty large portion of these smaller beach style realty companies. And from what they were telling me on our initial introductory calls was that they just couldn't get a hold of somebody. They used to have a local office. Now those people were basically fired or moved into other areas of the company, and they couldn't get a hold of anybody. They didn't feel like it was a personable management experience. And so when I basically reached out to them to say, hey, I know you guys, it sounds like you guys are not happy with your current situation. I'm local. I have a smaller portfolio of properties, and I can offer something that these other people, bigger corporations, can't. And I don't think that that is something that Vacasa necessarily took into account when making these big acquisitions. Was this isn't the same as a long-term rental lease acquisition where the homeowners don't really care. Some of them are pretty hands on, and that was the case here. These homeowners are pretty hands on with their property, so they want somebody who they can get in contact with, they can meet in person, and we can kind of do like a hybrid strategy and implement what they want to and implement my management skills. So that was kind of what happened there, and I can see that being a big way for people to target co-hosting properties.
And I say it's like it's a really good place in the vacation rental management game to be at. Less properties is an advantage
Mm,
in many ways with like this boutique vacation rental management, because what Vacasa did, they tried to swallow and buy up everybody, and like it is hard to offer that personalized service when you've got 20,000 properties.
exactly.
When you've got 10, 7, 10, 20, 25, you can offer that service. When you get to like 100, it becomes more difficult. However, and I kind of want to preface this with kind of like the lifestyle aspect of what you're doing, sitting at that, 10 property mark, you're a cash flowing, a good bit, you're profiting. B, you're providing good service. If the owner wants to like send you a message and text you and give you a note on something, you can respond to it yourself, and it's not overwhelming, or you're not getting too many of those a day. But C, like you could live a pretty damn good lifestyle. So tell us about that, kind of like why. I guess what's your why, and then why in short, like why have you crafted the business that you have?
Yeah, I think I am a pretty big lifestyle guy. I do enjoy the idea of being able to go surf in the middle of the day, or play basketball or travel. And by no means am I saying that I'm just content with exactly where I'm at. I think I'm always looking to grow and always looking for ways to increase my cash flow and increase my
You're
net
under
worth.
contract on another house right now.
I am. Yep, that's the next move. But yeah, for me, I mean, that was really the why. The ability to, and I think it's actually funny when I bought this duplex that we were just talking about, and I'm living at my parents' house, and I'm cash flowing. And then we were kind of joking around. Oh, look, we reached, or you reached financial freedom. I'm like, heck yeah, dude. I guess I did. I don't have to worry about my bills at this house, and I'm cash flowing, and I could basically. I mean, if I wanted to continue to live off $1,000 a month for the rest of my life, I guess you could. That's one way to describe financial freedom. But obviously, we weren't done there. Yeah, so I am under contract on another house. That's kind of the next move, and looking to probably do a midterm rental on this side of Dock Street. That's the goal.
Oh wow, you want to move out, or so this new house is for you?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm gonna move into it, and it needs a lot of work. So gonna kind of do a live and rehab.
Handy
But
Andy.
yep, Handy Andy's gonna come back, and yeah. So gonna live there and renovate it, and then I think we'll just like completely short term rental it in a year, and then move into the problem.
Winky wink.
Yeah, yeah, and then likely move into. I don't know. We'll see what happens after that, but
you're
yeah,
gonna you're gonna you're gonna add value. So essentially, you're gonna kind of like live and flip. And
exactly.
I want to just, for example, that first property you bought, that duplex you bought for 410 grand. You worked on it yourself for a couple months. It's not that much, it's like what, 2 years, 3 years later.
Hmm.
What do you think? I think you recently, I remember you asked me about a HELOC, like, and kind of to give you the rundown on how that works.
Hmm.
Did you go through with the HELOC, and what they value the property at?
Yeah, I did go through with the HELOC, so I have that line of credit, which I'm hoping to use for some of the rehabs on this next project. But I just did it on one side because, weirdly enough, this duplex was actually deeded as two separate properties. So I just uh, had one side appraised and got a HELOC on it, and it appraised at 328. So, or
So if you multiply that by two,
yeah,
now you've got a 600
yeah,
$656,000 asset
which is
when
just
you
insane.
initially bought it, and you bought it for 410.
Mm.
So Andy's net worth has gone up $250,000 in it. So he's made the cash flow. He's quote unquote, when we say financial freedom, like I'm gonna admit, like we kind of laugh. We laugh. It's a joke. Not financial freedom isn't a joke, but just like the concept and everything we see on social media, like it obviously gets thrown out there a lot.
It's just an overused
And
buzzword, but I do love
yeah,
financial freedom. Yes.
yeah. So AO's got that financial freedom. The monthly cash flow that pays for his bills. He's able to save some in order to to invest in real estate. He's also creatively using the equity he has in his first property. So again, guys, it went from 410 grand. He put a low down payment on one side, had to put a higher down payment, had to use more of the boat money that he probably wanted to use on the
Mhm.
other, because they, made, unfortunately they made, they deeded it as two separate lots. But you use the equity gain from that property, pulled a home equity line of credit against it to now do the down payment or the improvements on this new property. And then what you're going to do is you're going to improve it. You're going to increase the equity value and
Mhm.
just keep rinsing and repeating, right?
Exactly. And that's, I'm a big proponent of doing value add to STR. It's almost like a burr stir strategy where you buy, rehab, then short term rental, then refinance. But I think that's a huge it's a huge opportunity to get into a property, and then you can basically end up having no cash into the deal if you structure it right after you do these renovations and then refinance.
And then do the next deal.
Exactly. So it's definitely especially when you're doing it my way. I have to be very selective on what deals I'm taking on, because I'm not the most I don't know the word for it, but bankable or loanable person in the world. I'm also like I don't I've never had a W-2, so except for in the hospital, which I don't think would have ever qualified me for a loan. But I have to
Well,
be
it
pretty
helped. It
selective.
helped. It helped for that first. You
Yeah,
were able to get like an initial loan, and you've done some like
exactly. Yeah,
DSCR
yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, and that's something else that I think is going to be huge in the next year or two, and something that I'm really focusing on is trying to be a master at finding creative finance deals. I think that's going to be the name of the game here in the next year or two.
I asked Andy what episode of the pod he liked the most, and that was the one he said was
Yeah, yeah,
the one with Ryan Bakey.
uh,
I guess it makes sense now.
yeah, definitely, definitely. No, it's there's a ton of value in that episode, and you know, I feel like I've just ingested a lot of information and a lot of knowledge from different people online about creative finance in general, and it just makes a whole lot of sense in the financial environment that we are in the world, with interest rates where they're at and people struggling to find affordable housing. Maybe people got in with interest rates at 2.5 and need to move, and or can't afford their mortgage payment anymore. You can do subject to, you can do seller finance. As a not great loanable person, that's something that I'm going to be trying to put a lot of effort into.
Hey, they don't need to know that. They don't. That's the
Exactly.
thing with subject to and creative finance is doesn't really matter. What your bankability. So okay, so I'm excited to hear about your subject to creative finance pursuit. But tell us. So you did this. You built your co-hosting business, got the cash flow. You've been gaining equity through ownership, but you also got your real estate license, and you also sold your first property
To
to an
Mr.
investor.
Jeremy.
I don't know. I don't know who. I don't know who fell for your antics. But yeah, tell us. So I guess how has been the adding that to your arsenal? What was the thought that went into that, and how has that helped you?
Yeah, definitely. I think part of getting into this business and wanting to do short-term rentals and co-hosting is creating a lifestyle, or a sources of income that are not your typical office job, and you can create more time for yourself and time freedom. But with that,
That midday surf. You
yeah,
got to wait till the temperature is perfect
yeah,
before you go out there.
exactly,
And the
exactly.
surf conditions, the waves are as high as Andy watches the wave cameras.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. WBLivesurf.com, shout out. But yeah, with that, it seemed like an obvious vertical integration for me to get my real estate license, and I had a good amount of time to work with clients during the day. You don't need to be on your phone or computer 24 hours a day when you're co-hosting. So, I mean, it was a pretty obvious next step for me, and something I always wanted to do was to be able to, provide some value for other people that were in the same situation as me 2 years ago, for example, or wanted to get into their first house, or somebody who has been an investor for a long time but doesn't really know the STR game that well, to kind of come in as a quote unquote real estate investor before getting a real estate license, I think is pretty invaluable. And I think there are a lot of things that I learned over the last couple of years that a lot of real estate agents don't focus on or just don't know. So, and that being said, Jeremy and I worked together on a property not too long ago, and to have me in the local area while he's up in New York, and also be able to run numbers and kind of visualize floor plans is very helpful for people who you know have an agent that understands the game. So that was kind of the idea.
Yeah, if anyone listening to this is out of state investor looking to get into North Carolina, hit up Andy. I mean, Andy was, yeah, for that transaction I did, I think about 5 months ago. Really, like, I didn't go to it before I got it under contract. Like, Andy went there, took the videos, he measured the floor plans. He knows how to look at things like I do, which is really important. And that's why I always say, like, vet your realtors, because there's a lot of realtors who, oh, of course I know short-term rentals. My friend has an Airbnb, but they don't really know, or they're like, ugh. And I think a prime example for that is like in Wilmington. Like, if you hit up a realtor, they're probably like, oh, you need like a waterfront property. Like, you've got to be on the beach. You've got to be on the water. Downtown is sketchy, like downtown Wilmington is scary. Nobody wants to travel there. Like, but Andy knows how to do the research. He identified a property with, it was very important to have like a private backyard, because he looked at the comp set and he knew in Wilmington that if you being downtown, in order to beat the competition, you want to have a private fenced in backyard. So like, those little details are what allows you to like get that $5,000 a month, just simplifying things of, oh, you need to be waterfront or not waterfront, or this close to X or this close to Y. Like, that's simplifying. Like, you got to know the little details. Like, you got to think about it like an investor, like, which is what Andy does. Is, all right, if someone's coming to here, like, what do they want? What's the experience they're looking for? I'm sure when you craft a midterm rental, which is what you might initially do, you're going to know how to think about it like a short-term rental investor and create the experience that is needed to attract the type of guests that you want. So that being said, if you're looking in North Carolina, especially the beach, definitely the beach area or even the Triangle, Andy's good. But wherever you're looking for a realtor, you got to vet them, because you can't just go with a realtor who claims to be a short-term rental expert. That's just, you're going to set yourself up for disaster. A, you should know how to run the numbers and analyze deals yourself. B, but if you don't want to like, fly out there and tour a million properties, you need to vet your realtor. So super important. Again, super just tangible tip for those out there. But Andy, so what are you excited about for the future?
Yeah, wow. I'm excited to continue growing as a person and grow cash flow. And I'm excited about the opportunities that are going to present themselves here, like we just said, in the creative financing world. And, you know, me as an agent, I hope to help more people get into the game and kind of be that person that people look to in my market here in North Carolina as the expert in short-term rentals. I think to be able to provide, from the brokerage perspective, helping people get into a house, to having the management background to where I could potentially manage somebody's house that I sell them, and continue to grow my personal portfolio is are the goals, and what I'm super excited for. Obviously, the immediate next step is this house that I'm under contract right now. It's literally just at the inspection before I got home, so it's all looking okay, moving along nicely while under contract. But
Did you go into the crawl space?
dude, this crawl space had a very very small access, and the inspector couldn't actually even fit into it. But he was
Did
able
you
to
fit into it?
he was able to sneak a long camera down there, and we were looking at it together, and it all looked good. So no problems there. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. This house has a pretty big pool in the backyard and a pool house.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Andy hasn't actually showed me this house
I know.
yet, which
I'm
normally he
excited for you.
does
I'm
before
excited for you to see
he
it.
goes under contract. So I guess you've gotten some confidence this time. You don't even need, he doesn't even need. It's when what's it like the quote in the Karate Kid when
The
it's like the
apprentice becomes the master.
has became the master. Yeah, he doesn't even Andy doesn't even need to send me deals anymore. He knows how to and that just shows, the how much he's grown. And it's been really, really rewarding personally to, you know, see your friend, Andy's my childhood best friend and, still my best friend to this day. So to see, the kind of the life that he's created. And also, Andy has, one thing with his financial freedom is he doesn't just, spend his time on real estate and surfing, but really gives his time to like other people and is like he's like a family man and, great relationships with his, I'd really say he's the connector of like a lot of like my high school friends. Andy's been able to, for me, it's like I'm doing all these things, it's hard for me to like maintain relationships with like every person that I've like met in my past, but like Andy has, and like so I can easily like catch up. I feel like I can catch up with like 200 of like my past friends through Andy. So again, super super valuable. Like when you have your time, give it to other people. Like maintain relationships. Like build new relationships. Grow your portfolio. Like so, it's been beautiful to watch.
Oh man.
Everything you've done.
Thank you so much. That means a lot. And to throw it back at you, to see your growth and where you've come, and to be on your damn podcast. It's awesome, man. It's awesome. I think you inspire a lot of our friends from home. And even though throughout your journey, from the very, I mean, I think it was in maybe middle school when we were in trading stocks on a stock game. You were the one killing it, and always the one saying, "Oh, I'm gonna make a whole lot of money one day," all this type of stuff. And at the time, everyone was like, "Oh, that Jeremy's, I can't believe he's saying that. He's so annoying." But now it's like, "Hey, look, here he is. He's he's doing it big." So that's been a pleasure to watch too, and also so fun to be a part of the journey, from boat rentals to you know co-hosting, all of it. I have you
And yeah, we've
to
got
thank for a lot of it too.
don't say that, Andy. I appreciate that, and I'm excited. And we're gonna have Andy back because we're not done yet. We're not done. Where it's just the beginning. I really feel like we're in the first inning. I wanted your opinion on barrel saunas. Do you have an opinion on barrel saunas?
I love the sauna. I think it's my favorite thing right now. I have not gotten a barrel sauna yet. I think at the first opportunity I get, I'm going to implement it at one of my properties, so that I can
Because
use it when the guests are gone.
yeah, that's Andy's. Andy weighs that aspect
Yeah, big time.
pretty high. Where I'm like, I will never go into any of these things. Uh, but I'm adding hot tubs to like every property. You guys like a big part of this game and crushing it in 2023. Like, yeah, when Andy started a couple years ago, that first duplex he did, frankly, like it would be hard to mess it up. I mean, obviously
Right.
to hit like an absolute home run like he did, he put in the work. He renovated the house. He gained a quarter million in equity. Like that wasn't just because the market went up that much. That was, Andy put in value to the property. But that being said, in like 2023, you should continuously be like leveling up your portfolio as well as just, doing everything the right way from the get-go. And I'm adding hot tubs to every single one of my properties. That doesn't, that makes, I have apartments that like it doesn't, I'm not going to add a hot tub to an apartment. There'd be no way to put it. But for all the houses, we're adding hot tubs. I'm not letting that cash sit in the bank account. Like
Yeah.
it's getting deployed. I'm under contract on a property right now.
Mm.
So I'm, keep going and I'm trying to add, and really nowadays great pictures, great management, but more and better amenities than the competition. So I'm checking the hot tub box right now, but the next one I'm eyeing and trying to figure out like the logistics as well as the ROI potential is the barrel sauna.
Yeah, yeah,
So
for
that's
sure.
why I
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to, talk to you a little bit about making some of these additions to mine as well. That's
Yo, your backyard's at Dock Street. You can,
I
you need to
know.
be
Yeah,
pumping those out.
there's a lot of room
Pretty
for
bare
improvement
bones,
there.
Andy. You
It
can,
is, it is.
yeah.
But I think as we speak, I think there's somebody sitting out there on my beautiful Adirondack. So clearly they're enjoying it. But yeah,
Yeah,
I
I
think
didn't say the front yard, I said the backyard, and he's got 2 fenced-in backyards,
yeah,
which
yeah.
are, I think, somewhat bare bones. I think you got, like, a picnic table back
They are.
there
Yeah,
and a
we just
grill.
did a very simple. We basically just put a big like 4x4 post and created a little perimeter, infilled it with some gravel, pretty gravel, and put some Adirondacks and a grill. It was super simple, and it was something that we just needed to just basically DIY because we'd already deployed a lot of cash
Cheap as
as cheap
possible.
as possible, and it worked for what it was. There's string lights, which are great, obviously. Like you say, the best ROI you can do. But yeah, there's room for improvement at here, and then also pretty much at you know there's room for improvement in a lot of different ways, and to be able to continue to improve like you are, I think that's something that I really need to step on the gas and do some of those things. And yeah, I'm excited for you to see this new property, and I'll keep you updated, and maybe we can do this again when that's all completed. It's a going to be a good one.
Awesome. Well, yeah, everybody, Andy will be back, so stay tuned for that. Andy, where can they find you if they want to reach out, want help buying a house or just want to follow your journey? Where can they find you?
Yeah, my Instagram is agsurrealestate, and that is Surreal Estate Management is my property management company. I'm with Better Realty Brokerage based out of
Hey,
Durham.
shout out Better Realty.
Yeah, we've had a fellow Better Realty, Better Properties, Better Everything guest on a couple weeks ago.
Devin, I had Devin who's on earlier, so you guys should watch that episode. Devin is also my landlord. So talk about relationship building. Technically, Andy didn't start working with them until recently, but Andy's also technically one of my landlords for arbitrage. So I don't know, a little bit, again, relationship building is super key. People say, why wouldn't your landlord screw you over? Well, I'd hope Andy
Yeah,
wouldn't
right,
want to
exactly,
wouldn't want
exactly.
to hurt his old pal.
Yeah, and even if I'm not involved in that on a daily operational level, it's still nice to know that you have somebody that has your back and can kind of be somebody on your side within our company too. So obviously, I want to see you succeed. I want to see everybody succeed. We can all do it together. So relationships are
Exactly. So
important.
exactly. So relationships, I mean, obviously we go back to childhood, but just focus on relationship building is huge tip. But also, yeah, I like to ask everybody, like, what is your biggest pro tip for someone listening?
Yeah, I think I mean, I want to say it's more important that you take action than what you take action on is kind of a key one for me because when we talk about this duplex deal, I didn't have to be a complete master at everything at the time. And looking back, it seems like I was a genius, and I think that is the case for a lot of people. Obviously, you can ingest as much information and become and listen to podcasts for years, and it's you kind of get stuck in that analysis paralysis. But just getting out there and taking action, whether it's there's so many different avenues that you can get involved in here. You can co-host, you can arbitrage, you can buy a property, but just go ahead and get into it and get your feet wet.
Yeah, and I would say join work, like, build community and relationships with those who are gonna, I don't want to say put a gun to your head and make you take action, but
No, no,
who
that's
are
no,
gonna
that's a very good point. It's important that you take action, and you're more likely to take action if you're surrounding yourself with people that are also doing it. And that was a big thing with me, kind of being alongside Jeremy with his journey and him supporting me on my journey and giving me tips here and there. And
Yeah, I'm sorry if I was a little aggressive with the action. I was very forceful with Andy on.
yeah, honestly, I didn't
You
I didn't
know,
have a choice. It's easy for me to say take action. I actually didn't have a choice. He had cocked the gun back.
yeah, this is all figuratively. Andy does like to, he's a hobbyist with the guns as well. So,
Oh
so
yeah.
maybe literally, not literally, but yeah, okay. I digress. That's where we're gonna end the podcast.
Please digress.
Awesome. Well, Ayo, love you, brother. Appreciate you coming on today. And as always, everybody, stay tuned to the next episode of Short Term Rental Pros podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. Look forward to coming back soon.